Hi,
This is Crew Ennis,
and Leroy Kunz.
and this is
The Horror Squad podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast, episode number 297. Tonight we're talking about 1990s Arachnophobia. I'm one of your co-hosts, Todd. We have Joe. We have Steve. Men, how are you guys doing?
Good. It's my birthday pick, so I'm excited. I've been holding on to this for years because I kept waiting for the remake to come out, and I was thinking maybe we could do both. But I don't know what happened to the remake. It got announced and just disappeared from collective consciousness. So no more waiting. Arachnophobia, it's a special movie to me because it changed my life in a weird way, and I'll talk about that during the review. It's actually maybe affected my life more than any other movie in the way that I do things and think about things. So yeah, pretty psyched about it.
I'm great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the response so far on our event coming up, our Hocus Pocus event. We're very excited for that. It should be a lot of fun. There's been, I did an interview for our local newspaper, the Salem News, so you can check out that link. We linked it over on our Discord, so you could read it if you'd like over there. That was a lot of fun. And the response has been great. We're hoping we can sell it out soon. So head on over to it's just a bunch of Halloween.com if you haven't got your tickets yet. We would love to have you guys there. And I think we have an interview too.
Oh, that's right. We do have an interview.
Yeah.
So we have an interview attached to the end of this episode. I discussed the new movie coming out on the day this episode is releasing called Deliver Us. So I talked to the co-directors, and one of them is also a co-writer on the film. Honestly, I haven't done an interview yet at the time of recording, but I'm sure it's awesome. The movie is pretty cool, so definitely check it out once it comes out, which is in theaters, digital, and on demand on Friday. So stick around to the end for the interview.
Sweet. Sounds good. Over that website, they can buy everything, right, Joe? Like autographs and movie tickets and all that stuff.
Yes, yeah. So it's just a bunch of Halloween.com. Yes, we're pre-selling tickets for everything. So Friday night is the costume party at Bit Bar. You can get your tickets for that. And then Saturday is the signing at the Common. We are pre-selling tickets for autographs. I will say you are going to need your QR code for autographs on Saturday. So that is very important. Even if you show up with cash in hand, we are still going to ask you to buy your tickets online for the autographs. It's just going to help the line move faster, not having to deal with cash and whatnot. So I would definitely recommend, if you plan on coming to the Common on Saturday for the autograph signing portion, to buy your tickets now, because we're going to make you do it anyway when you get there on Saturday. So that will help you immensely. We also, shout out to our artist, Michelle, came up with a Hocus Pocus special design just for the event. We're going to have some stickers. We're going to have some magnets, maybe a couple of shirts and a couple sizes. We'll see on the demand on that. But we'll definitely have some free swag for you. We would sell shirts if we have a few shirts available. But yeah, pretty awesome design there. You can check that out over on our social medias as well.
And is the design going to be available on TeePublic for people to buy shirts if they are not going to the event?
Yes, Steve. Thank you. I'm going to throw it up sometime. Actually, as of this recording, it should be up for sale. So if you can't make it out, but you're a huge fan of Hocus Pocus, the design, for those who haven't seen it yet, it says the Horror Squad podcast in, of course, the iconic Hocus Pocus font with the spell book in the background. And one of the O's of the Horror Squad podcast is the book's eye. It's a pretty cool, fun little design. So for you Hocus Pocus fans, definitely grab it. And TeePublic, awesome like that, does merch on fucking everything. So it'll be shirts, hoodies, flags, coffee mugs, everything. So yeah, if you are interested in that, if you haven't seen the design, of course, join our Discord. That's the best way. But also just head over to teepublic.com and search the Horror Squad podcast, and you will find our designs over on there. We also have multiple other designs too. Of course, our iconic Monster Squad logo. We have our Halloween logo we did a couple of years ago. That's really fun. And also Chuck's logo, which he designed last year, which is in the realm of sleepaway camp. So all really, really fun designs. So if you want to support the podcast in any way, head over to TeePublic, buy some merch. We don't get much for it, but it helps.
Nice.
What about you, Todd? Anything going on? How's the fantasy football going on for the Horse Squad?
Let's see. Fantasy Football Horse Squad podcast, year 1 is going off. It's pretty damn fun. We're in week 3 right now. Joe and I actually battling as we speak. Monday Night Football tonight. Joe has like 4 players to go. He's down, but he's projected to almost get up to where I'm at right now. Fantasy football is insane. If you're into it, come over next year and we'll get you on the board, man. We'll get you signed up. Super chill, nothing crazy. All you gotta do is participate in the draft and you're in. As for me, went to a Reds game, the final Reds game of the home season this year, and they're giving away a bunch of shit. Didn't get a single thing because I was unlucky. But baseball games are super fun. Even if you're not a baseball fan, it's always cool to go to the ballpark and get like hot dog and nachos and ice cream or whatever, and just hang out. So that's all I've been doing.
Awesome. So how about we spill the tea?
Oh, you want the tea? I'm sorry. We don't serve tea. Nope. Instead, you get a cup of Joe. And now here's Joe with the news.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Chuck. And here you go, ladies and gentlemen, your cup of Joe for this week. Let's start off with probably the biggest news that has come out within the last couple weeks, and that is John Carpenter is back, ladies and gentlemen. That is right. He is behind the directing chair. But before you get too excited, unfortunately, it is a very small return to the directing chair, as he has been announced to direct 1 episode of the upcoming horror anthology series for Peacock titled Suburban Screams. This particular episode of John Carpenter's will be premiering on the first episode, which will premiere Friday, October 13th. How fitting. So the series is described as a genre-busting, isn't everything described as a genre-busting these days? But the series is described as a genre-busting, unscripted horror anthology series. The series will explore the dark secrets and unspeakable evils that sometimes lurks beneath the surface of the sun-drenched streets, manicured lawns, and friendly neighbors of suburbia. Each episode will focus on one true tale of terror told by the real people who lived through it. Their first-hand accounts are brought to life through premium cinematic scene work, blah, blah, blah. Each episode will delve into monstrous evil, whatnot. You get the gist. So yeah, I mean, John Carpenter finally returning to the director chair. It's been, God, what, 15 years maybe or something like that since he did his last piece here. I mean, I would love that. Too bad it's not a full-length movie, but this is a start, and I think this could be a way for him to get back in to the director chair for a full-length movie. So what do you guys think? Are you excited for this? But also, do you think this is potentially a start, something bigger for Mr. Carpenter to return?
Yeah, not really excited about the specific work, but I think that, I mean, all we need him to do is catch the director's bug, and hopefully he'll have a great time on set, get back in the groove, maybe put the music on the back burner, video games on the back burner, and get back in the chair. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I just met him in Texas not too long ago. He's not looking the youngest, right now. So I'm hoping he has the bug to make Dead Space he's been talking about. I think he would be awesome and maybe a great way to kind of encapsulate his career and finish it. I'm excited for this, but Joe, did you say unscripted, or did I understand that wrong?
No, I think it's scripted. Like,
okay, I thought that's what you said in the. I was like, what the hell does that mean? Yeah, but I'll watch it. I don't know if it'll be any good. It's not getting like a ton of marketing. I just saw it basically in horror groups, so we'll see what happens. But I'll watch it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see like a ton of like buzz around it once people found out it was just sort of like a one-off thing for Carpenter and an anthology series. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see, how this whole anthology series, I guess, turns out. Peacock is pretty solid. Everything they've put out recently, I've enjoyed. Non-horror wise anyway. I know they haven't really delved too deep into horror yet, but we'll check it out for sure. October 13th, that was when Mr. Carpenter's episode will be releasing. So you'll hear our thoughts, I'm sure, when it hits just in a couple weeks. All right. Are you guys ready to smile again? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Smile 2 is heading to theaters Halloween 2024. To be precise, October 18th is currently the slated date for that. Of course, the writer's strike just ended. Hopefully the actor strike will also end very soon. So let's hopefully hold that date and that it will actually happen on that date. But that is all the information we have as of now. No sort of plot details or anything have been announced. Just that Smile 2 absolutely is going to be happening. The first Smile, a massive, surprising success, took in $217 million worldwide, that first movie. Something we did review on the podcast, which I believe we all surprisingly gave it better scores than we anticipated. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Like, are you excited for Smile 2 and for this to become the inevitable franchise that is going to happen now? And Todd is smiling from ear to ear right now, very creepily, like the characters in the movie. So let's go to Todd first.
I was hoping you were going to say something that's committed to it, but only if you acknowledge that I was smiling. Yeah, I mean, we all enjoyed it for what it was. So yeah, I'm happy to see a sequel. So it can't hurt.
I'll watch it, but I don't want to watch the trailer this time because I think the trailer to Smile showed the best part of Smile, which really sucked when you watch the movie. So yeah, hopefully they don't do that again. But I'll check it out. I'm not particularly like psyched for it. It wouldn't be in my most anticipated of 2024, but still I'll check it out when it comes out next October.
And no, I agree. I enjoyed Smile quite a lot. I think it's going to go way downhill though. Probably with these sequels. I think they kind of caught lightning in that bottle once, and I don't foresee it happening again, but you never know. And I saw Sosie Bacon, by the way, is doing her very first convention coming up. So that's kind of cool. Hopefully she does more. All right. Next bit of news here is Tony Todd. We haven't heard much lately about this upcoming new Final Destination movie. Well, in an exciting little turn of events here, it has been announced that Tony Todd has signed on to reprise his role of his, of course, famous character of the, what do you call him, mortuary undertaker sort of character in the Final Destination franchise. So no real other details as of now, but the production is set to take place after the strike is resolved. So it's obviously been put on the back burner for now, but of course, it's exciting. Tony Todd to be back in this. So the plot is supposed to be centered around first responders, but no other details about what exactly these first responders will encounter on their, vision of death, I'm sure. But Tony Todd back in the Final Destination franchise. Are we excited for another Final Destination movie? Has it been long enough, I guess, right? So like, I feel like it did sort of run its course. But now that we're getting a reboot, I'm hoping it'll be better than some of the last sequels we got.
What was the last one? The bridge? Is that the last one?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I love part 3. I think that's the best one. Fuck you, Ben Franklin. But yeah, I think it's been a while because I don't remember. Let's see. We got the bridge for sure. And the roller coaster was 3.
And then NASCAR was 4.
There's a NASCAR one?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, they're at like a NASCAR event and like the cars all start crashing, like the wheels and the cars like start flying into the crowd.
That was my second date with my now wife was seeing that movie.
She a keeper.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not like particularly excited about it. I hope that whoever takes it decides, okay, let's really amp up the kills and make something really unique. But I have a feeling they're just going to take this franchise and do basically the same thing over again. The reboots haven't been great, right? Like for most cases. So I'm not anticipating this to be amazing. We'll see.
What was 2's opening kill? Oh, the highway. Never mind. How can I forget that?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right. We'll file this next one under. People might have been asking for it, but are we still asking for it? As the H Collective, which is the group behind the original Brightburn, has announced that they are actively developing a sequel. So that's all I got really as far as this, because obviously the strike is kind of holding things off as far as any sort of development on this. But Brightburn 2. It's been, 5 years now since the first one came out? Basically a horror sort of version of if Superman, turned the other way. What do you think? Are we excited for this, or is it just too little, or is it too, just far gone at this point that who cares?
Well, I really like the first one, but I think it's a little bit past its shelf life because we have The Boys now, and The Boys is essentially that story where Homelander's Superman and same powers, blah, 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 and Homelander's a bad guy. So I think it's a little too late because they set up a really cool franchise at the end of Brightburn, showing off like different superhero slash villains, but they never went anywhere. So I think they missed the mark.
Yeah, even though I think that it's too late, like Todd said, of the three movies you mentioned, that are getting kind of sequels, this is the one I'd be most anticipating out of the three, because I think there's a lot of potential with what they can do with the series. So yeah, I'd definitely be down for a Brightburn sequel. I think more so than the other stuff that we talked about.
Agreed. I'm excited. I loved Brightburn, so I would definitely be down for a sequel, and I don't think it's too late to reinvigorate that franchise, and I think they have a lot more they could probably do with it. That could be really cool. All right, just a couple more pieces of news tonight for you Halloween fans. October 17th for you collectors as well. They are releasing Halloween 2018 through 2022, the official Making of Films book release. This is going to be a massive companion book of behind the scenes photography, interviews with cast and crew, and it promises to cover the making of the trilogy in fascinating detail for those who actually cared about that specific trilogy of David Gordon Green's. But it seems to be a pretty damn cool little book for you big time Halloween fans and makers out there. So you can pick it up in stores October 17th. Also, for you Halloween fans, the official novelization of the original Halloween has been brought back to life, as it is going back into print for the first time in over 40 years. For those of you who are book collectors, that first Halloween book is a pretty penny. So for those that are wanting to finally add that piece of the original to it and just read it, right? Just being able to kind of see what that original sort of idea was, you can head over to Printed in Blood. Just search that on Google and you can get a copy of the reprint of the original Halloween novel. Of course, with spooky season comes spooky movies, and you can head to the theater now to see some of these spooky movies. I know Todd recently did They Live and Christine, and you got House of a Thousand Corpses coming up, right?
Yes, and The Exorcist.
And The Exorcist, very exciting. Well, A24 has announced that they have teamed up with AMC for this October, calling it Thrills and Chills film series. So you can go to your local AMC, of course, check the website to make sure your theater is actually participating. But on October 4th, they will be screening Robert Eggers' classic, The Witch. On October 11th, they will be screening X. October 18th, Under the Skin. And on October 25th, they will be screaming Midsummer. So for you big A24 fans, you can check out A24 all October long in theaters. And the last bit of news here I have for you guys is a little fun one. Head to your local GNC and get slashed up, because they have released the official energy drink of Friday the 13th. That is right. Officially licensed, ladies and gentlemen. The drink is called Hack and Slash. And Friday the 13th coming up. Buy a case, drink as many as you can while watching your Friday the 13th marathon. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a fun little can as well. It's got Jason Voorhees' mask on it and whatnot with some blood on the can. So for you energy drink drinkers out there, head over to GNC, get your officially licensed Friday the 13th energy drink. And that's it. Instead of ending with a cup of Joe, we end with a cup of Friday the 13th energy drink this week. Thank you. And that is it for our news.
I am looking at that Halloween book as we speak, and it looks pretty freaking cool. The reprint.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. What's the price on it? Do you see?
Yeah, so you can get one that has limited to 250 signed box set prints, original art for steep $300 price tag, or you can get a regular hardcover for 50. So, and it's
Okay.
illustrated too throughout, which is kind of cool.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
very cool. I mean, if you, like I said, you can't find one on eBay for I think under like 300 or bucks or
Oh, they're
400
pricey,
bucks.
yeah.
So yeah, because I got Sam. She has Halloween 2, Halloween 3, and she has a bunch of the other novelizations. But
So,
Halloween 1 is like impossible, unless you want to spend a pretty penny. Even
yeah,
2 and
get
3
her
now
this. This looks cool.
have gone way up. Yeah, I think I will.
I'm gonna grab it. They also have a Halloween art book too, if you're into that.
Cool.
Sweet.
Well watched.
Ooh, I'll lead off. All right, so I did 2 of the Fathom events, both John Carpenter films. I'll start with one, and it was the first one I watched was They Live, which, I mean, Keith David, Roddy Piper is so freaking good, man. If you haven't seen the movie before, basically this homeless guy, he's a construction worker going through LA, Roddy Piper, and he meets this crew that's like kind of like pushing back against the government, and we're like, what are they actually fighting against? Whatever. And he finds this pair of glasses that allows him to see the world for what it is, that everything is a subliminal message. He looks at a bank and it says, purchase stuff, or he looks at an advertisement with a girl in a bikini. It says, have sex and reproduce. And looks at another one. It says, obey authority, things like that. And he's freaking out. And then it gets worse because he sees some people that look like hideous aliens, right? So it all comes together where aliens live among humans, humans work for the aliens, and the aliens reward them with being a powerful person, things like that, as long as to keep humanity in check. There's this sub-organization of humans trying to get like a broadcast out to the people because we're controlled through television broadcasts, and they interrupt the normally scheduled programming with like a dude talking about like, you're being controlled, blah blah blah. And it's a really cool movie, man. It's a timepiece of that era. It's got one of the best fist fights in all of movie history that goes on and on. I forget what the screen time was, but well over 5 minutes of just fighting and no breaks in it. Performances are awesome. The ending is really dope. I really like how our hero goes out. Normally in a film where there's a set hero, he's going to be, saving the day and riding off with the woman on horseback into the sunlight, right? And that's not what happens in this film. And then the very ending too is just so funny. It ends on a comedy note where this girl's having sex with this guy. She looks down and she can now see him for what he is as an alien. And it's pretty hilarious. So They Live, 4 out of 5. Love it.
Yeah, I love that movie. Roddy Piper is so like
Perfect.
I love Roddy Piper. I think he should have been a bigger like movie star. I think he focused maybe too much on wrestling, and he did some really fun performances, this being the highlight of his career. But I also recommend Hell Comes to Frogtown if people like Roddy Piper. It's a very fucking wild movie that people should definitely check out. So my first one this week is a 2023 film. It's the one that we have the interview for in this episode that comes out on Friday, and it's called Deliver Us. So this is a story of a young nun at a convent, and she's taking her vows to stay celibate, and she's just living with other nuns, and they're kind of just going through their nun things, whatever they do in a convent. I'm not sure. They're praying and whatever they do, and all of a sudden she falls pregnant, and they find out that she's having twins. Well, it turns out through information that the Vatican believes is that she is going to give birth to both the reincarnation of Jesus, but also the Antichrist at the same time. And so the Vatican sends a young priest who is also thinking of leaving the church because he met a woman that he got pregnant, and he's about to kind of like be like, I can't do this anymore, but he wants to do this final case. So he goes to this place, and there's this kind of sect of the church trying to kill the nun and the babies because they don't want to essentially start the apocalypse by having the Antichrist being born. And that's kind of what the story is the young priest and the nun trying to get away from this sect as they chase them down from place to place. And whether or not the baby is born, you'll have to watch it and see what happens. So I've talked about it often. I love religious horror. We talked about it last week when we did The Nun, and this one is a solid film. It's got great imagery. It's got really cool like cinematography, and the setting is really well done, and the lighting and all that stuff. I really enjoyed that. I think the story is pretty interesting, but it's told a little bit in a confusing way. I think they could have cleaned it up a little bit and made clear storyline. Like at times you're not really sure what's going on. And I wasn't the biggest fan of the last act, I guess you could say. Even though there was some cool stuff in the last act, I thought they could have done something maybe a little bit better. We do get a little bit of, I feel like I've seen this before, like End of Days and other movies that have touched with the apocalypse and the church trying to chase people down, and they're not sure why they're being chased down, that kind of stuff. So it's not like a unique story, but I would still recommend people check it out. I think it's at least worth a watch. So that is Deliver Us, which you can find in theaters, VOD, and on demand as of Friday.
Sounds pretty cool. Okay, my next theater watch was 1983's Christine, also by John Carpenter. And honestly, man, I teeter between this and Halloween being my favorite Carpenter flick and technically best made film too. Right now, it's currently after Halloween, but I can flip-flop on this one because I love Christine, man. It's a story about a evil car, essentially, that a young man, this nerdy, ultra nerdy kid, gets controlled by his parents. He's not allowed to have any freedoms. He gets picked on at school, but he also has his best friend who you wouldn't think normally would be his best friend. He's the star running back, star wide receiver on the football team, really handsome guy, great with women, which is complete opposite of Arnie. So it's really nice to see that relationship, and I think that's my favorite thing about this film is a realistic best friend relationship and how it escalates from Dennis, the football player, taking care of Arnie to Arnie like shedding Dennis and becoming like this cool kid that doesn't give a fuck, disrespects his parents, got a girlfriend. All he cares about is Christine the car, and he takes his revenge on bullies. And for better or worse, Christine helps him do that. And we follow these guys as they're trying to figure out why the fuck Arnie is just going crazy, dressing differently, being disrespectful, who's killing these people, how is Christine evil, and we just go along with them to see how their life turns out. Christine, I love it. 1983, great year for horror. 4.5 out of 5.
Nice. And my last one this week is one that both Todd and I can talk about because we both watched it this week, and that is 2023's Cobweb. So this is a story of an 8-year-old boy. He lives in kind of a old house with a pumpkin patch in the backyard, and he's having nightmares and he's having trouble at school. He's kind of a lonely kid, and he's got 2 parents who are very controlling. And all of a sudden he starts hearing tapping and talking from his wall. So he's not sure if it's a hallucination or it's something that's really happening, but as it's happening over the span of a few nights, he starts realizing that, okay, this might actually be a person or at least an entity behind the wall that's talking to me and telling me to do different things. And while he's going through that process at school, he's being bullied by someone, and he can hear that, we'll call it the entity's voice telling him to retaliate, and he ends up pushing a bully down the stairs and breaking his leg, which gets him expelled from school. Meanwhile, his substitute teacher starts getting worried because she thinks that he might be being abused at home, and his parents are acting super weird, so it kind of checks out that maybe he's being abused at home. There's a lot of kind of story threads getting into it, but the movie is more or less about figuring out what the entity is, what his parents are actually up to, and then getting into a crazy third act, which I won't spoil. This stars Lizzie Kaplan and Anthony Starr, who most people would know as Homelander in The Boys. In fact, maybe one of my critiques is that I can't separate Anthony Starr from Homelander right now. Now, this movie doesn't help that fact in some ways, and I won't spoil why, but it's very difficult for me to see this actor and not think of the creep he is in The Boys. But overall, I really dug this film. I was so invested in knowing what the hell happens in this story the whole time through. I was so curious. Okay, what's behind the wall? What's in the pumpkin patch? What are the parents up to? What's going to happen to the teacher? Like, there are so many threads, and I was so interested in finding out what would happen in each of these threads. And I'd been kind of warned by Todd that there's a scene in particular in this that is absolutely terrifying. holy fuck, was he right? There's a scene in this fucking movie that I was just like, wow, this is so well done. I kind of wish that they kind of stayed that course for the whole film and kept a lot of it more in the shadows, because I also talked to Joe about it. We kind of had a kind of three-way on this one. And I feel that although I enjoyed the last act because it's fucking relentless and there's some great kills, I think seeing less was better, because when we actually see the entity in its full form, I was like, okay, it's a little too goofy for me, but I won't spoil what exactly it is. So for me, this is a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed this one. In fact, it's in my top 10 right now. It's a good one. People should check it out. And that was on VOD.
Looks like I win, Joseph. Looks like I win. Just kidding.
It's not that I disliked it. I just thought, honestly, it was so close to making my top 10, but I feel like the third act just killed it a little bit for me personally. But I agree. I still think people should check it out. I really enjoyed it, especially this time of the year. It's the perfect, like, sort of spooky season type movie.
Yeah, no, I 100% mirror what Steve says. Yeah, he's Homelander, and unfortunately, he's not going to be anything but Homelander because his performance is so amazing as that character. I can't see him as a semi-loving, oh, wait, no, he's not, father. But yeah, dude, I really liked all the creepy stuff. Now, have we seen a lot of this plot lately? Absolutely. Like entity or a voice in the wall. But it's effective here. And I thought the kid's performance was a little uneven at times. But man, that sequence with his parents is fucking really good. And then I really liked the final act too. And it reminded me a lot of Malignant with some sort of the things she was doing. And honestly, I don't know what this villain is. She's a human, right? But she's deformed and she's got long hair and she's creepy. So I don't know. I liked it a lot and I recommend it. So I think I have it at 3.5 on Letterboxd right now. I might bump it up to a 4 now that I talked to you about it. But yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah,
I can see why Joe got derailed a little bit though. I can totally see that if you're not maybe in the right mindset or just not feeling it. But
yeah, I think what this movie did best for me is hooking me in and getting me so invested into knowing what happens next, which is great for a movie like that. It wasn't like a slow burn, it was really kind of peeling its layers, scene by scene, and I really enjoyed that. So it's just too bad. I thought the end was a little too far into the kind of goofiness, like Joe said, but still a great film, and I'm not sure. It might not finish on my top 10, but there's a good chance it'll be there.
And I loved her rant at the end, like every fucking
Yeah.
creep cue here. I'm like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I got one Todd gripe with this. There's no way a substitute teacher is coming to a kid's house. Not once, not 3 times. My wife's a teacher in a small town and they have to do house calls, but substitute doesn't go fuck. She's there for like 2 days tops and she's gone.
Yeah, for sure. All right, trivia?
Yep, trivia it is. All right, so quarter number 3, Todd, am in the lead with 20. Joe in second place, 13. Steve third with 12, which is his last last one of the quarter.
Yep.
Safe to say I won.
Yeah.
We'll go through the motions.
Yeah.
Who would like to lead off?
I'll go.
All right.
So I totally forgot about trivia this week because I was prepping for the interviews that we have this week. So I went back to the Kayla well. So thank you very much, Kayla, for sending so much trivia like a year ago, so I can go back to it when I need to. So the first one is match the plot to the movie. A college student create a drug called Zed and sells it on campus. Inadvertently,
Faculty?
Nope.
Fuck me, dude.
Inadvertently resurrecting the living dead who wreak havoc at a Halloween rave.
Why did I say that so early? Joe, go ahead and guess incorrectly.
I mean, it sounds familiar, but I feel like maybe this is something I haven't seen. I don't. Zed really isn't really jumping out at me.
I think you've seen it. Pretty sure.
Is it Return of the Living Dead Part 2?
No, it's not Part 2.
It is Night of the Demons, the remake.
Wrong.
No. Oh, dang it. I don't know then.
Yeah. So you were really close, Joe. You're actually in the right franchise. It's Return of the Living Dead. Oh, maybe it is Part 2. What's the number? What's the name of the Part 2? Anyway, this one's called Return of the Living Dead: Rave to the Grave.
That's 4.
That's 4. It's
4 or 5.
That was Necropolis, or maybe it's anyway. It's not 2, I don't think. So.
That's not.
All right.
Yeah. Darn it.
That's fine. All right. I also didn't have my trivia tonight because it's been a busy times. But shout out to AI because I asked AI online and they came up with horror trivia for this week for two out of the three. So we have a tagline, 2022 movie.
Okay.
Once you see it, it's too late.
Smile.
Correct.
Nice.
Okay. Did you ask like Alexa or did you go on chat, whatever?
Chat GPT. Yes.
Nice. All right. I'm going to do some quotes for you guys. And I'm going to start off with this one.
We have to guess the movie.
Correct. You have to guess the film.
Okay.
Here's to swimming with bow-legged women.
I know this.
Here's to swimming with bow-legged women.
It's not Jaws, is it?
It is Jaws.
All right, yeah.
But since
I
you said
thought
it's not
it was gonna
Jaws, you
be-
don't get the point.
Jaws.
I thought it was Jaws 3, but not Jaws
Nope,
1.
Jaws 1.
Really?
Yep, Quint.
Nice.
All right, next one. Still from Kayla. According to Captain Spaulding, who is the greatest American who ever lived?
Elvis Presley.
Wrong.
Fuck me, dude.
No, that was the cop played by William Forsythe.
Oh, you're right.
He was the
absolutely
big
right.
Elvis fan.
Oh, I got it.
John Wayne.
Fuck
Correct.
you. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Dang
John
it.
Wayne.
He's got the tattoo and everything.
Yeah.
Back to me.
Mhm.
All right, back to AI. All right, what is the name of the mental hospital in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise?
Collinwood?
Incorrect. Springwood is the name of the town.
Yeah.
Springwood Sanitarium.
Incorrect.
If there's a wall
So,
a small wall
like-
next to me, and I have
Yeah.
a sign of that fucking thing.
Ah,
Like,
okay.
on the other side of it. But I won't cheat. I won't get
No,
get
it's
up.
not
and go
cheating if
back.
it's in your
No,
general
it's like on the
environment.
complete
That's
other side of
cheating.
the room. I don't know.
Correct answer is Weston Hills
Weston
Sanitarium.
Hills. Interesting. All right, I got a long one here. You go ahead and just interrupt if you know what movie it's from. Why? You ask? Why is not the question. How? Now that is the question worth examining. How could I, being born of such conventional stock, arrive a leader of the rebellion? An escapist from a conformist world destined to find happiness only in that which cannot be explained? I brought you here for a
7?
reason. Incorrect. I brought you here for a reason, but unfortunately you and your sentimental minds are doing me no good. My brain is frozen, locked. I had to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations drying on the surface.
Alien?
Oh,
Incorrect. Would you like another guess?
Saw.
Incorrect.
I'll go
Sounds really familiar.
Starship Troopers. I don't know.
Yeah, the movie is House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh yeah.
Otis
Oh,
yeah.
his rant. Yep.
Yep. Nice.
All right, last one. Match the quote to the movie. Never look back. The past is a wilderness of horror.
Wow. Deep.
Hmm.
I have no idea though.
Any ideas, Todd?
Never look back. The past is a wilderness of horror.
Yeah.
No idea.
It's a remake, if that helps.
Remake?
Yeah.
No clue.
I'll even tell you, it's a 2010 remake
Oh.
of a considerably older film.
House of Wax?
Wrong.
Oh.
Give up, Jeff?
Yeah, I got nothing.
It was The Wolfman, 2010.
Okay.
Okay. Makes sense. All right, last one. Guess the movie based on the details I give you. Okay. This movie is from 2002. Directed by Elori Elkayam. Starring Carrie Werner, Doug E. Doug, and Scarlett Johansson.
Dougie Doug, man. I haven't heard that name in a long time. Scarlett Johansson and Dougie Doug.
I will say the genre is horror comedy.
Is it Ghost City?
Incorrect.
Darn it.
I'm also leaving out one very big actor that would give it away. I will say, think about the theme with tonight's movie.
Oh, eight-legged freaks.
Correct.
Nice.
Scarlett Johansson was in that movie.
I
Like,
totally
don't
forgot.
remember that at all.
yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, that's a shocker.
Right.
All right, name the movie. Truck's not gonna make it to Fort Pastor. No, forget the truck. That place is fucked, man.
Oh,
Bloodbath
that's
City.
Dawn of the Dead remake.
Correct. Good job. Are the people there dead? Well, dead-ish.
That is. That's a great fucking line.
Yeah, it is. All right, Joe and Steve, 2 apiece, myself 1, which brings us to the quarter number 3, ending with me in the lead, 21. Joe, 15, second place. Steve, 14. Now we go on to the fourth and final quarter of the year. I will input these numbers into the AI provided form, and I will give you an update a little bit later.
Awesome. So you'll have a punishment for us next week, I guess.
I will. I will go to the gutter and the cellar, the basement and the dank bathroom of Tubi
Right.
to find the best. To find the best. No, you know what?
What was the last one? Oh, the Ron Jeremy.
The Ron
That was
Jeremy
our last
movie that I
punishment
gave
Oh
you
my
movie.
guys.
god! So, what was that called? Zombie City or something?
I don't
Zombie
know.
Night?
Oh,
Something
It was
stupid.
it was
It's
a
been
really
erased from
fucking
existence.
basic movie. Let me pull
All
up
right.
my letterboxed.
Sure.
Night of the
Alright.
Dead.
Night of the. So
Night-
remember that
Night
wall
of
that
the
they're
Dead.
obsessed with?
Yeah. God, I was, and
Your gem.
everyone in that movie climbed it except Ron Jeremy. I was so bummed out that they
Was in
did.
his contract.
Yeah, they tried to force Ron Jeremy to fucking go over the wall and then fall like an asshole.
That would
That'd
be
been great.
hilarious.
Yeah, I know. May he rot in hell.
He's not dead yet. Okay. Arachnophobia. 1990, directed by Mr. Frank Marshall. 8 legs, 2 fangs, and an attitude. A large spider from the jungles of South America is accidentally transported in a crate with a dead body to America, where it mates with a local spider. Soon after, the residents of a small California town disappear as a result of spider bites. They don't disappear from the result of spider bites. Why do they put that in there? From the deadly spider offspring. It's up to a couple of doctors with the help of an insect exterminator to annihilate these 8-legged freaks. This one is a rewatch, man. I watch this one every, I don't know, 6-7 years, something like that. And I remember loving it as a kid, and every time I watch it, it gets a little bit lower. I did rank it higher than my last viewing. But overall, I think it's a fun film. I like trying to spot like the little microfilament that they're using to control the spiders. I think the characters are well acted, and I think the atmosphere is good. Although I wish it committed to either trying to be creepy or trying to be funny, because I think it's a little bit of a mix that I don't like necessarily. But overall, I think it's still a fun movie.
Yeah. So yeah, Arachnophobia, man. It's been quite a long time since I've seen this one. Probably early, like teens, maybe. I just always remembered John Goodman's character, but other than that, I don't remember anything else about this movie whatsoever. So I was excited to give it a rewatch, a fresh one, and I had a lot of fun with it. You know, it definitely it's sort of like definitely a time capsule of that time, like of the early 90s. But man, there's a lot to love here. Just the small town feel. Jeff Daniels' character is great. John Goodman, of course, is awesome. Although I thought John Goodman had a bigger role than what I originally remembered. So I wish he did kind of go even more into his character in this and like went even crazier, but he's still a fun time regardless. The spiders, I think they did a good job of keeping the tension despite it being kind of the same thing over and over again. But I do think they did enough different to make it fun and interesting with sort of the ways the spiders appeared and whatnot. And to me, I think the puppetry was pretty good. Like most of the spiders were pretty believable in their roles. And man, the end part where all the spiders come through the house, whew, makes your skin crawl for sure. So yeah, overall, I think I had a really fun time watching it.
Yeah, so I picked this movie because I remember watching it as a kid, and it fundamentally fucking scared the shit out of me. I was terrified of spiders for such a long time after seeing this movie. Now, I'm not as terrified of spiders as I used to be, but holy shit, did that alter my way of thinking and doing things in my life. To this day, I will not eat pretty much anything that's been left out for more than a few minutes without me supervising it, because I am too afraid that a spider got into it. Popcorn, cereal box, you name it, I will throw out the whole fucking cereal box if someone left it open, like for a few hours. It's
Look at that first world problems right there.
yeah, because I would rather lose the money than risk eating a spider. It's just one of those things. It's funny because it's really stemming from this movie. Now, for the movie itself, I, like Todd, watch it every few years. I have it on DVD. I should probably upgrade to Blu-ray, actually. And it's just, I love this movie in a weird way, because I think it is so effective at making the spider scary, whether it was like through shadows or like just with the light or making it bigger than it actually is. They just shot it in such a creepy, menacing way. And like Joe said, I mean, in the end, it's just spiders, right? It's just a bunch of spiders, but they try to make it bigger, whether it was through angles or just their presence was always in the background. Like, you always thought a spider could be there. And they even have like kind of jump scares, but not real jump scares, like false jump scares. I thought this movie was super clever. It's a super effective creature feature. I love the characters in this. I think they're all compelling. I also wish that John Goodman was in more, and his tone doesn't really fit in the movie so much when I rewatch it as an adult. It's just, like Todd said, it's a little too goofy for what is otherwise kind of a serious movie, because a bunch of people die, kids die, like at a football game and shit like that. But overall, I love this movie, and it's one of my favorite creature features out there because of how effective it is at conveying fear.
Yeah, R.I.P. Julian Sands, who plays the spider professor in this, who passed away recently. I'm gonna have a lot of little gripes and nitpicks and stuff. So why? I understand why, but man, I fucking hate the photographer, man. He's so whiny at the beginning. Like, this is your job, man. And like, do they really need to fly out a professional photographer where some guy could just get a camera and take pictures of dead bugs themselves?
I mean, if it's a scientific expedition, they probably want to, you only get one chance at it. So they probably wanted a professional to document the whole expedition and things like that. So I think that it is kind of believable that they would hire, a professional photographer to do that. Now, he was probably out of his league. Maybe he relied on his resume. Who knows if he really expected kind of what he was getting into. But to me, that was a believable situation.
Which brings me to my next gripe. Okay. They go into this forest and they gas this tree that has no issues killing insects, like pretty much instantly. But the humans are walking around them without gas masks on. I thought, all right, let's fucking contaminate ourselves. But then the hypocrite of the doctor, because he complains at the fucking photographer, he says, oh, all you can do is step on the creature. You didn't have any problem killing 1,000 fucking bugs with your gas, but you can't step on one spider? Fucking hypocrite.
You can't preserve a squished spider. He's
got 1,000 in the bucket.
Yeah, I know, but he's discovering new species by this, miraculous kind of place that they found, right? That's in the perfect ecosystem, because it's a crater that has a tree in it, and it kind of created its own ecosystem that humans weren't able to infiltrate, because it was in the crater, and the spiders couldn't get out and the butterflies couldn't get out. It was just like the perfect situation.
So let's kill every creature in this fucking crater.
Yeah, basically.
In the name of science.
So we could study it for science.
Which I got another gripe. So we go to the spider kills the photographer, which is a cool scene, man. I always think about that scene, like especially when you're camping, you feel like a little like tickle in your leg. It's that fucking spider from Arachnophobia. But the spider sneaks into the coffin, and he gets shipped back to the United States, and they open up the coffin, and like his body's completely drained of fluids because the spider fed on him the whole time. But my funniest part in this movie is when they're standing in the house, because the doctor moved from big town San Francisco to the small town to take over the practice, which the other doctor doesn't want to give up because he's an asshole. But him and the wife are standing in front of the window. They're like, look at those stars. Oh, the fakest piece of shit stars of all time. It's like someone in a high school play put some like Christmas lights on there. And then they decided to start banging. And then they had the fucking balls to do a transition from the humans having sex to the spiders having sex. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever.
That was awesome. Yeah, it's great, great directing there by our boy. Was it Frank Marshall directed this one, I believe? Yeah, which shout out Congo, another great one he directed
Gambling.
as well. Yeah, that's something we should cover.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. One day.
Congo would be fun. Yeah, also live, real life horror in some ways, right there. But no, that transition was awesome. It was I laughed out loud actually when it happened. So I really enjoyed it. But I love like when we finally get to I thought the intro was really cool with Julian Sands and the guy. It's a great little way to show how the spider does make it to this small town. But once we get to the small town, I just love the whole sort of feel of that town. It kind of gave me like Beetlejuice vibes in some ways, like a really, really small town where everyone kind of knows their name and stuff like that. And yeah, and then just meeting Jeff Daniels and his whole family and stuff. Like you really connect with pretty much everyone in the town, which is very hard to do, and actually care about these characters when they start getting popped off by the spiders one by one. So I think they do a really great job of building the characters in this film.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just going back to that like first scene and the transition into, the small town, how fucking terrifying is that goddamn sound that the spiders make when they attack? That like hissing sound when they jump and like attack people. Oh my god, like to this day I think spiders are actually going to hiss at me and jump on me. It's crazy. Terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, do you guys have like a fear of spider? I mean, when I was a kid, maybe, but like nowadays, unless it's like something like this, like where they're fucking all like huge and fuzzy and shit. Once they start getting hair, that's when it starts creeping me out a little bit.
I don't. I mean, I don't handle them, and I don't want anything to do with them, and they can like not live anywhere near me. But I'm not like deathly afraid like I am of sharks because of fucking Jaws.
So that's actually one of the big reasons I wanted to do this episode. I've had this penciled in forever, is because I'm fascinated by spiders. Because where I live, the biggest spider is like the size of a quarter and it won't kill you. So the idea that there's always something huge that can fucking kill you in your house pretty much at all times, anywhere from, I guess Boston would be maybe too high, but a little bit lower than Boston, and down, is frightening to me, the idea of that. So I don't know how the fuck, like Todd especially, you've lived in
I think
like,
you're
Texas
overplaying
and...
it a little, Steve.
Well, it's true, isn't it?
You don't. No, you don't. I mean, you don't. That's funny. One of our buddies, Asa, he sent me a picture of a fucking tarantula on his window shield or windscreen. I don't know if you guys saw that, but
Yeah, I put it in Discord.
yeah, it's fucking gross. But I don't think you're worried about the big ones too much. Is those little bastards like the brown recluse,
The brown
and
recluse, yeah.
the widow, and all that stuff. It's gross.
But you're always in danger of it. Like that's not something I worry about at home, right? So I'm not
I
used to
guess.
that idea that at any time I'm not safe in my own house from, something that can get me from any angle. And it could be in my shoe, it could be on the ceiling, it could get into
Be in a
my
baseball
sheets.
glove.
Yeah, like how do you guys even live? I can't comprehend it.
So because of this movie, I do this. I've done this every time I use the restroom since I watched this film, and I always lift up the bottom of the toilet seat just to make sure there's not a fucking spider to bite me in the butt. Because I've said this story before. I got bit by a spider on the ass when I was 10, and I let it go, and I didn't tell my family. Which, if there's any kids listening, if something hurts or doesn't make sense, tell somebody so we can get taken care of by a doctor. But I let it go, and it ended up festering to the point where it was an open wound on my butt cheek, just oozing black fucking tarry liquid. And I had to go get emergency surgery on it. And I remember the knife cutting it open. It was fucking yuck. So yeah, check your toilet seats for spiders.
Yeah, absolutely. But getting back to the movie and that infamous spider sex scene, that general is probably like 10 times the size of the fucking queen. Like that must have been a painful night for the queen.
Hot dog down the hallway.
Yeah, that would be the opposite, right?
Wait, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah. So, my respects to the queen for taking that fucking dude. And also a little moment right after this that I thought was one of the most real moments I've seen in a film in a long time is when the neighbor kid comes over to play with like Jeff Daniels' kids, and they're like, "Oh yeah, just come back by dark," which is how we used to live in the 80s and 90s. and he says something to the effect of, "Oh, don't worry, they're just gonna go chase butterflies." And as they're running away, they're like, "Let's go blow up a bullfrog." That is the truest thing of my childhood. My parents assuming I'm gonna go do some innocent thing, when in reality I had like nefarious little fucking ideas of doing something, whatever it is, build a fort in the middle of a drug den or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to dig fucking traps for people, like the Viet Cong ankle traps. But I put in my notes, I'm like, man, just some casual animal cruelty from Bunny,
Right?
saying they're gonna go blow up a frog. I'm like, geez.
Yeah, that's what kids do in little towns, apparently. So, what do you guys think about kind of the lead up of him learning that it's spiders killing kind of everyone in the town? Because we have this kind of dickhole cop who doesn't believe it, and you have this dickhole doctor who brings him all the way to this town with the idea that he's retiring, and then once his family is all settled and shit, he's like, "I'm not retiring, fuck you." What do you guys think of that whole plot line?
I dug it. Yeah, I dug it a lot. It was really cool, like how they're calling him Dr. Death, in town and stuff like that, thinking he took the woman off the high blood pressure medicine, his one and only patient, and she ends up dropping dead like a day later. So I thought that was like a really fun little side plot there where the whole town is but I feel like they should have turned on him a little more. Like, I feel like they were still like not everyone was completely convinced. I feel like they should have been like not selling them the whole family like groceries at the grocery store type deal, and like people completely like ostracizing the family. I think they really could have dived into that even more, but I thought it was still like a really fun sort of plot device until the whole town kind of figures out, well, these fucking spiders are wreaking havoc.
Yeah, that guy's the ultimate dick move, man. Not retiring. But shout out to the football coach who gives Jeff Daniels some work, and he goes to high school and gives a hernia exam to every young male there, and doesn't change his gloves from nutsack to nutsack, which I thought was fucking disgusting.
Yeah, that'd definitely be a Todd's
Small
gripe,
town.
because he doesn't change his
Things
fucking
happen.
glove from nutsack to nutsack. Is that a thing they really do? I've played sports my whole
I've never
childhood.
had that done. I've never had
No.
that done once personally.
Really,
but
I've had it a couple times. Yeah.
no.
Like I get it at the doctors, but at like school by your coach
No.
or
Whenever we had physical for sports, it was just at your own doctor.
Yeah, I remember like once in gym, like we all had to be in our underwear and like fucking, it was like a
Scoliosis?
scoliosis. Yeah, we had to like
Yeah.
bend over and shit like that. It's
That
kind
was
of
so
fucking
embarrassing,
weird when you
dude.
think about it now, but like, yeah, it's like all the boys just in a fucking line in their underwear, just fucking, all right, bend over, and the fucking teacher's like looking at you, he's just looking at your ass essentially. Like,
Yeah, like why did we have to get everything off? You just look at your spine.
Uh,
What
I mean,
fucking
yeah.
weirdos.
I'm glad it just wasn't me that experienced this.
that reminds me of, like, I don't want to get too off subject, but in grade 7, my creepy old gym teacher, who we all thought was cool in grade 7, used to like egg us on to pants people like in class, like some big joke. But man, like thinking about that as an adult is like, holy shit.
Jeez.
Disgusting. But yeah, well, we won't go too much through that.
Yeah, go pants, Steve. Yeah, go over there, pants them.
Yeah, you do. Oh, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it. But something that happens in this movie, and I'm curious what you guys think, is so they exhume the bodies to kind of support their medical theory that the spiders are killing people. Do you think exhuming bodies is disrespectful or a required kind of thing if you're going to try to save other people?
I think you got to do it, especially when they exhume people that are potential murder victims and they might have had a poison or it was a bad medical examiner, things like that. I think it works.
Yeah, for sure. And I love how local, like small town undertakers are always eating when there's bodies around. It's
Every
like a
time.
big movie thing. Like, yeah.
Return of the Living Dead.
Every fucking
Yep.
like movie, they're like just casually having a pizza. Sometimes they'll put the box right on the body as they examine the wound. It's like the weirdest thing ever. It's like one of those, I guess, 90s tropes, especially. Yeah,
Hey,
and then yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, at the sleepover, why the fuck does a doll open its eyes?
I don't remember that.
Joe, do you remember that?
Yeah, the spider crawls into it, and it's supposed to be like
Oh,
the spider like inside of the doll, and that's why her
okay.
eyes kind of open.
I
Yeah.
missed that. I thought they
Mhm.
had a little Easter egg of a haunted doll
No, no,
for part
no, that
two.
would have been just to make for a creepy scene. But yeah, like I don't know, like do you like how do like John Goodman's character? I want to, I guess, delve a little deeper into his character because, like Steve said, it is like the whole movie is like very serious tone for the most part, with the occasional joke. But then John Goodman shows up, and he is like a completely different level of sort of slapstick in this compared to like everyone else. I personally liked it, and it didn't take me out of the movie, but I could totally see why people would kind of hate like his character introduced.
If that had been pretty much anyone but John
That's a
Goodman,
good point.
I would have hated that fucking character. I would have thought it was like the wrong character for this movie. But because I love John Goodman so much, I think I let it pass. It's like he got a free slide on this one. I think that's how I feel, because the character itself is kind of dumb. Like it's a little too over the top. It's too tongue in cheek. It's too like goofy. It's really only because I like John Goodman, I think, that I give it a pass.
Was this like peak Goodman time, or was this right before Roseanne really took
This
off?
right before Roseanne, because this is
Right before,
1990.
okay.
So, or maybe like season 1, 2
Season
ish.
one,
Yeah, you know,
Roseanne.
like
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I give them a pass too, but I still think it's the wrong character and the wrong tone for this film. I also, what I hate most about it though is his theme song that comes in. It reminds me a lot of Last House on the Left, when you have the police officers and they're like the bumbling idiots and they have their own stupid honky pokey theme song. But I do like his delivery of his lines. Like he'll be talking like, "Hey, what are you doing? There's no spider here." He just leaves. It's pretty cool. But he's the worst fucking exterminator. He like cleared termite evidence, and he's like, "There's no termites here." Like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, he just looked one quick look, and he determined the cause of the whole fucking house, you know. But he does say after, like, I'll sweep it anyway, right? So at least he does
Yeah, I
eventually
guess.
do the work. You just don't see it. But he is very quick to dismiss a lot of stuff in this movie.
How do we feel about the shower scene?
That was my next note,
Oh,
because how
one of
unnecessary was it
great.
to have
Gratuitous, yes.
her dad and brother walk in and see her
Yes.
topless? Like, totally useless.
I
Yeah.
was thinking just about the spider walking between the
Yeah,
breasts.
it's
Yeah.
walking between her boobs. Yeah, I was watching that with one of my friends, and he was, "Oh, this is the best part of the whole movie so far." I was like, you know, you get a little cleavage. You can't, nothing wrong with that. Is this PG-13? I assume that's why we didn't get the
Probably.
full
Yeah,
fledged bare
probably.
breasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that whole shower scene was pretty funny, and the dad kind of walking in was maybe not necessary, but
And brother.
I'm sure
It's
it
like,
was
why?
I guess a laugh back in the early 90s.
Maybe.
Now
Yeah.
it's a little creepy.
Sexual harassment was a lot more funny back in the day. Like,
Apparently.
you watch 80s and you go even like further back, like Animal House. Like this is just straight sexual harassment. It's not funny, but yeah, I like the whole sequence, man. Honestly, like it's actually, breast aside, is actually really effective because you love those scenes where someone has their eyes closed and you know something's happening and they don't. It's always pretty good.
Yeah, so there are actually a lot of these scenes in this movie. I was curious which one was your favorite. You know, there's the popcorn scene, there's the cereal scene, there's the toilet scene, there's the shower scene. So which of these do you think is the most effective?
Ooh, I don't know, man. I really like the end, like battle scene between Jeff Daniels and the spider. You know, it's like the boss, you know, the general or whatever, the queen, and man, it's just like I don't know, like it doesn't, like, it's fucking goofy as hell, but it doesn't come off as goofy as you would think it would in that situation. So I thought that was super fun. But the popcorn scene is great too, because shout out Mimi from Drew Carrymore show, Drew Carey show, also making this slight appearance in there as well. So that was fun.
Yeah, I think the most effective isn't going to happen. Am I going to get bit scene was probably the mean doctor, because he was a prick. And then it goes in his fucking shoe, and she's like, "Don't forget your shoes. The floor's cold." And then he gets bit, and then shows his crusty ass toe. Why are coming back to the coroner or whatever? They come in to like look at the body and just handle his skin without anything. They don't know what killed him. Could be some pathogen they can get on their hands, and they're just fucking around with this toe that's like oozing blood and shit.
Well, that's like the whole, right? It's like small town, right? They're just like whatever. Like there's like the dog, like they even say like the doctor, like he pretty much sucks at his job, but like people just kind of like accept it, you know. Also, shout out Doctor's wife, Happy Gilmore's mom, grandma.
Okay.
So got a lot of fun cameos in this.
Yeah, and another real scene, just going back to the small town that made me laugh because my mom's a nurse, so I grew up with someone in the medical field, and at every party, someone will inadvertently like start talking about some kind of ailment they have, and they do this in this movie where he goes to the barbecue, and this guy's like, while I'm here, you want to check out this growth on my like neck? That's so real. Like people just have no shame at parties if they know someone's in the medical field. So another real little moment there.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about I really like Joe mentioned where they go in the house and like spiders just coming out of like everything, fucking TV, windows. Also we didn't mention him, Julian Sands' partner that he sends, a young college guy to the town. I really liked his character too. I thought he was pretty effective. But they all go to the house and then spiders are coming out of everything and Jeff Daniel falls to the fucking we know that fucking floor is bad because he just said it like 30 minutes earlier. It's a wonder we haven't fallen through the floor. He falls through the floor into the basement to fight the fucking cellar dweller himself, Monster Spider. How do you guys feel about that final scene?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it a little bit already, but I mean, I loved it. Like, it's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. I just think it's such a great, like, they don't go too like ridiculous, but it really does feel like a final boss battle, like in a lot of ways. You know, it's just like a great back and forth between Jeff Daniels and a spider, which sounds stupid as fuck, but it just seems to work in this movie for whatever reason. And yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. But leading up to that is my absolute favorite scene in the movie, where like he comes home and all of a sudden you start to see the spiders just crawling from like every orifice of the house. All the sort of little I guess soldier spiders coming out. It's so fucking good, and I just love it. And you just can feel sort of the threat there. That holy shit, if one of these spiders, it only takes one bite, right? And so I fucking love it.
Yeah, I love that whole sequence. I love the whole idea of the general with the soldier spiders and how they kind of attack for him, and that whole kind of like the queen. There won't be soldiers near the queen because she would kill them. It's just they really do a good job of establishing the villains in a weird way. Like even though they're not talking, they're not doing anything crazy, they're just spiders. They do a good job of really setting up as something intelligent and that can kill you. And I really love that. I love the whole kind of infiltration scene at the end. It gave me kind of Night of Living Dead vibes, with the zombies just overrunning the house and eventually getting in. It was the same thing with the spiders. And not only do we get the final boss at the end, but we kind of get a pre-final boss because he fights the queen first and then goes into the general. So first he deals with the queen spider and he gets her electrocuted. And then all of a sudden the big boy comes out and it's a monster of a fucking spider. And it's so effective. And the way that they just shoot it, like obviously it's just a spider, but they'll shoot a close up of its eye as if it's watching him and like plotting his death. It's just so effective. They did such a great job for what is essentially just a little creature. It's awesome. I love it.
You know what I don't like about the ending though is they're fighting and then the exterminator breaks open the cellar, pulls them out, and then it basically cuts to them being in like an apartment back in San Francisco. I'm like, you guys gave up, like you defeated the evil spiders and then you went back to fucking Frisco. I didn't like that transition at all.
Yeah, but it pays off the chateau, right? That they set up the whole movie. First, he takes out of the box and talks about how expensive it is. Second, he's throwing wine bottles at the spider, but he doesn't throw that one bottle because it's worth too much. And then at the end, he finally gets to drink the wine bottle, but an earthquake causes it to spill onto the floor, and he doesn't actually end up drinking the bottle. So it's just kind of this loose thread, that they had to fill, and I thought it was great, just setting that up in a weird way. And a piece of interesting trivia for you guys, if you didn't know, the General Spider was designed and puppeted by a fresh Jamie Hyneman from Mythbusters. This was one of his first films that he did. That's the one with the mustache for those who watch Mythbusters. Cool. Yeah, so I thought that was a cool piece of trivia there.
That is, wow, that's fun. Nice.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and no moment did it ever look cheap either, you know? It
Agreed.
always
Yeah.
looked, because you could have easily like had a bunch of floppy legs sailing through the air, but they didn't do it. They took the time to make it look pretty cool.
100%. And honestly, like you do something different there, and this movie could have totally changed, the whole tone and thread had it been really terrible looking like fake spiders. But I believed it for the most part. Like, just about every time there's a spider on screen. I mean, for the most part, they used real spiders, I would think, especially like during like, the scene where everything's coming out, crawling out of the houses and stuff. So for the most part, they did use real spiders, but even the puppetry stuff, I thought worked. Once in a while, I think you could see that it was a puppet. For the most part, though, I think they did a good job of kind of keeping it out of direct, lens, and sort of keeping it the tricks nicely hidden.
And that's why a remake I think wouldn't work. Is they're gonna rely on fucking CGI in the remake, whereas this one had no CGI. It was 100 fully just either spider props or real spiders kind of mixed in together, so you don't know which is on screen. Now some of them are puppeted, some of them are just they move a little bit, some of them are real, some of them are not. They're just there in the background. It's very effective film. Like they did a great job of doing the whole practical effects on this.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many spiders were killed during the making of this, because usually that's no animals
I
are harmed.
mean, I think it's pretty impossible to say. At least, I'm sure a couple spiders were
Oh,
killed
yeah.
in the process, sadly. But
But they did go through great lengths to make sure it didn't happen. If you watch the kind of behind the scenes, for example, when John Goodman crushes the spider, that is a real spider that he's walking over, but they put a big like hole into his boot with padding and made sure that he hit his mark so that the spider would be safely under his foot while he walked over it. And they did like a lot to make sure there were no spiders. Now, yeah, probably some of them got killed or injured during the filming, but apparently they went to great lengths for that not to happen.
It's pretty cool. Bigger budget than I imagined, especially for this era. 22 million.
Steven Spielberg, right? So
That's right.
no, that's right. Yeah,
produced.
Spielberg was attached. What did this like do well in theaters? Do you guys know?
53 worldwide.
Double.
It's not insanely great, but double the budget.
They probably did a killing on DVD though, because
yeah, I was gonna say this movie. I feel like this movie really blew up like at some point, whereas like it's like everyone knows Arachnophobia, right? You say it like everyone knows the movie, so I think it's definitely joined the annals of legendary films, or called classics, I guess. Maybe
called classic. I would say.
So yeah.
All right, you guys ready?
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to be down the middle here between the two of you guys. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. I had a really, really fun time watching it. I just feel like there's something missing for it to bring it up to that 4-star echelon, but still a fun movie. One I would definitely rewatch, and one I would recommend.
All right, I'm a slightly lower at a 3 out of 5. I think it's a fun movie. It's got solid performances, but yeah, like Joe, there's something missing that brings it over the edge for me.
Yeah, and Joe, you're right. I'm at a 4 out of 5. I mean, it's stood the test of time for me. I've seen it multiple times, and I still enjoyed watching it on this rewatch. It's just a very effective creature feature, in my opinion. And there are a few issues for sure, but I think they did an amazing job, and I think this is the best spider-themed movie that they've ever made that I can think of. And there's a lot of them. Like if you search giant spiders and spider attack movies, there's a fuck ton of them. And I think this is the best one. So that's saying something.
What about Cobweb?
Well, not really a spider movie, I would say, right? It's yeah.
She's a human spider.
Yeah. And unlike fucking Kingdom of the Spiders, where they let all the tarantulas go into the town and it fucked that town for like the next 10 years.
Yeah. See, that's the town you were thinking of. See, when you think about down here, spiders.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that is going to be it for this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed our review of Arachnophobia. Next week, we head to the theaters for the highly anticipated Saw X, John Kramer's return. In the meantime, though, you can keep up with the podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. But of course, the absolute best way to keep up with the podcast is Discord. Just send us a DM through any of our socials, or you can send us an email at any time, of course, the horror squad podcast at gmail.com, and we will get you a link to that Discord, completely free to join. Amazing community over there. Don't forget about our upcoming events, starting with on October 7th. We are going to be hosting Ari Lehman with our good friends from Silver Moon Comics and Collectibles. He will be signing at Silver Moon Comics from 12 to 4 on Saturday, October 7th. Also, his band, First Jason, will be performing at Bit Bar later that night. And then on Sunday, there will be a Q&A with Ari Lehman with a screening of Friday the 13th. And then another event from our friends at Silver Moon Comics on Saturday, October 28th. Actor Douglas Tate, best known for playing Jason Voorhees in Freddy vs. Jason in the final lake sequence, he also played Michael Myers in stunt scenes from Halloween Kills. He will be at Silver Moon Comics 11 a.m. to 2:30 on October 28th. He will also be doing a very special in-costume Jason Voorhees photo op that day from 3 to 6 at Silver Moon Comics. And then that night, we will be screening Freddy vs. Jason at 7:30 at Cinema Salem with a Q&A to follow. And of course, the main event, ladies and gentlemen, our big event. It's just a bunch of Halloween, October 20th and 21st in Salem, Massachusetts. Come meet the stars of Hocus Pocus, the original, Thor Birch, Omri Katz, Jason Marsden, and Vanessa Shaw. Danny, Max, Allison, and the voice of Binks, of course. Friday, October 20th, there will be a party at Bit Bar from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. And then on Saturday, October 21st, the whole cast will be signing on the legendary Salem Commons in Salem, Massachusetts. You can head to itsjustabunchofhalloween.com for tickets and all information. And that's about it. But don't forget, we have an interview with the directors of Deliver Us. So don't forget, stick around for that interview. Steve did a wonderful job on it. Go buy merch too if you'd like. We got a whole bunch of stuff. You heard the whole spiel. That is going to be it for this week's episode, ladies and gentlemen. Stick around for the interview, and we'll see you guys next week for Saw X. Bye.
Bye. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast, where tonight we have two very special guests. We have the co-director, Crew Ennis, and co-writer Leroy Kunz. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Oh, my pleasure. You're here to promote the upcoming film Deliver Us, which is being released on September 29th in theaters, on demand, and digital. Can you tell us a little bit about what Deliver Us is about?
So it is a religious horror film about a nun who conceives twin boys. One is she believes to be the Messiah, and the other the Antichrist. And the Catholic Church sends a team to go investigate to see whether or not she's telling the truth, and the mayhem, unfolds from there.
Oh yeah, get ready.
Absolutely. One of the first things that I really noticed when watching this film is how great the aesthetic and the imagery is in this movie. You did a great job of capturing just how powerful some of these elements were, and you really did a great job of kind of showing it's both realistic but also kind of dreamlike. So what did you do to capture that amazing aesthetic in this film?
Besides relying on Isaac Bauman to really try to tap into just the iconography of the Catholic Church and just already like symbols, especially with dreams. And that's why we use a lot of different mythology, to kind of like a very Jungian approach to the dreams. There's like this cultural consciousness that everybody has, to kind of use that dream language to then communicate some of these ideas.
I think when kind of like you commented, Steve, on like the visual of the film being, there's authenticity to certain things, and then it's dreamlike in the other. That was part of the cinematic language that we built. So, like, since we're examining biblical themes, we wanted to have this authenticity throughout the film, right? And then when it came to, love, or something that could be accentuated by a dreamlike state, or even dreams themselves, we wanted to use a slightly altered cinematic language in order to help tell the story. And so I'm really glad you're actually the first person that's brought that up. So that's kudos to you.
Oh, it was striking at how great that was captured. I love religious horror. We talk about it a lot on our podcast. So why tackle a story like this? Is there something about this story that drew you to want to make a film about this Christian story?
Well, so when I was at USC Film School, it's actually where I met Isaac. Our favorite film professor was an ex-Jesuit priest, and he said that horror was the only genre where you can make a film where God or divinity is the subject and have mainstream audiences still engage with it. And so I think we were very interested in exploring our own Christian, Crew's Christian, and my Catholic background through the horror genre.
Awesome. Another great thing about this movie is the locations. You did a great job of finding locations that fit the story that you were telling. Where was this filmed, and where did you find those awesome locations?
Well, the movie's shot entirely in Estonia. So we knew a producer from there named Elena Litnova, who is phenomenal. And after Leroy sent the script, we developed a pitch deck and we sent them to her, and she was on from the get-go, helping us source the best talent the region had to offer. And then ultimately got us access to whatever locations we wanted, It was great. Estonia was an amazing place to shoot. When we got there was 6 hours light a day. And then the time we left, it was midsummer, so the sun never went down. So it was like living a whole, like there was a whole, like seasonal change. The landscape completely changed, and then obviously we changed because we just made a movie. But yeah, it was an amazing place.
Right. You also have amazing performances in this movie. You capture pain very well. You capture the feeling of fear. How did you find those great actors, and what, as directors, did you do to kind of get some of those performances out?
So yeah, me and Crew talked about how much we like an international cast. Usually people from different countries speak different languages. They just all bring so much variety to an ensemble. And then me and Crew had a lot of talk about Father Fox's arc, since he has a pretty intense arc, and also to try to get it portrayed as like a lot of the priests or religious leaders that we know, a little more like soft and gentle, and then kind of be the kind of the background for these other characters who are a bit more extreme personalities to play off of, especially in such a fantastical world that could easily, go into the camp, and then doing everything we could to keep it grounded in reality.
What are some of both of your horror influences that helped you kind of, whether it's the aesthetic or the story or helping you with the directing, what other horror films did you pull from as far as influences for this movie?
I mean, there's a long list for both of us, but Alien, Ridley Scott's first Alien film, is it's my second favorite film. I love that movie. And as far as like atmospheric tension, that's kind of that's the book from which we all can learn, right? Or the film from which we can all learn. And that was a big influence on, just our atmospheric presence throughout the movie, the tone, the tension, Leroy introduced me to a film actually while he was writing called Possession, and how he wanted to approach acting with Sister Yulia and Father Fox, and like how this like evil can come within, but it just needs a little opening, and then where it can go. And I thought that movie really played a big part. And then there's The Shining. We have some homages in there, and which you've seen, and I could go on, but I'm sure Leroy has a ton of great references.
Oh yeah, aside from Alien being great, I think The Thing is probably one of my all-time favorite horror films. The being set in the snow, again, it's beautiful. The use of practical effects, and then the religious horror from Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, The Omen, Ken Russell's The Devils, and then I think a lot for making a horror film is try to watch a lot of horror and why it doesn't work, because that was probably our biggest thing, is like kind of guarding ourselves against that.
I'm very subjected to what I take in, And so it's hard for me to watch a ton of horror movies and not like be affected. And so every day I'd watch a horror movie, and then every day I'd follow it up with 2 episodes of Dick Van Dyke. My palate. Because like, oh God, I need something wholesome. Or I'd watch like Family Matters or something like that. Just something that make me like feel good.
Right. One thing that I'm always interested to ask people like yourselves is you seem to wear so many hats. You're directors, you're writers, you're actors. Which process do you personally prefer most? Is it directing? Is it writing? Is it acting? And why?
I personally, I think it's important, like the way we came up, like having an idea of every every facet of filmmaking. I think it's really important in becoming the best artist you can be. Like, you know, every component's important. So my favorite is like directing. Like feel very natural in that state, like having a vision and then collaborating with people in order to have a you know, a project or an idea come together is nothing I really get greater joy from. And working with Leroy and Isaac, it's just like it's the best gift you can give, like people you love and care about and respect. It doesn't really get any better than that. But I would say directing for me.
I'd say there's 3 parts of the process that are like, it's hard to say which is better. From writing, parts of shooting it, and then once the film is like, you're pretty far along in the edit when it's really coming to life, and then because then you're writing again, then you're really rewriting the story. But I would say that then everything else is like filmmaking is like, it's hard. It's a lot of suffering involved for those few moments of just such highs and exhilarations that kind of push you through and make you want to do it again.
There's something really exciting about during production whenever it's like the world doesn't exist. If we don't get this, like I mean, it's a big deal because someone's invested their money in it that they worked very hard for. But it's like, if we don't get this, then we don't have it. We got to live with it for the rest of our lives. So there's like a focus there that like you can really harness a lot of great things. And I don't know, like I don't think anything's better than having an idea and then see it come to fruition. Especially like you know, Leroy wrote this thing, and then having him be the conduit for which the audience experiences it, and you know, a friend and someone you care about. It's a great joy, a lot of joy in it.
What's one thing that you would like to tell my audience to like prompt them to watch this movie? There's so much religious horror out there. Now, I'm of course going to plug it on my show because I really enjoyed it. But what would be the one thing that you would say as a takeaway, like this is why you should watch Deliver Us?
I would say from the first point that me and crew always said, the most important thing is to make the film entertaining. Like that's it. Like so that you can check out, like you can check out, it's not going to be like a drag. But is that as we take religion very seriously. Crew's Christian, I'm Catholic, and so it's done in a way that's as least campy as possible, and so that we're really trying to exercise some of these religious themes through the horror genre, you know, as earnestly as possible.
Absolutely. I think not shying away from sex and violence in a like this genre, like most films do. They have like a campy out, like they don't want to go there. We lean into it, like there's a reason this movie like the violence is so real. It's like we want you to be viscerally affected so you have something to go home and talk about, and how these themes can affect your life, you know. And then the sex is like, sex is a beautiful thing. It's a part of nature, it's a part of life, and a lot of times people associate religion and sex as you know, as there's a word, it escapes me, but like it confines it, like compartmentalizes. It's not good, it shuns it, and that's not the case. So we're you know, we leaned into it.
Censor anything, you know. It's like if you can see, yeah, he didn't censor anything because I don't like you. It's like very obvious you're just watching a movie if you're like showing certain things so horrible, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know, it's not being shown. So it's like it's there. You know?
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and we're on episode this will be episode 297 that we're doing, and I've talked a lot of horror, and this movie even surprised me at the like how far you go into certain themes. I'm like, huh, okay, that's a way to go, that's awesome.
Nice. Steve, that's awesome.
But before we let you go, can you just let us know, is there anything else that you're working on that you can talk about or that you like to promote, or any socials that maybe you like to promote so people can follow your careers and this film?
Yeah, actually, we have a movie that's coming out next called Devil's Fruit. It's a revenge thriller that's shot across 12 years, filmed across 12 years across 16 different countries. It's about a blue collar family that's seduced into Russian organized crime, and predominantly takes place in Cuba. Leroy wrote and directed, and it's coming together incredibly well.
And then on the horror side, we'll probably be making an Inuit horror film through the detective genre in like up there in the Arctic next. So
that sounds like quite the challenge, but also a great homage to The Thing. So if you're a fan of that, that'll be awesome. Thank you very much. So like you said, Deliver Us, September 29th, theaters, Demand, digital. Everyone, please go check it out. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you both, and look forward to the film coming out and hearing what people say about it.
awesome.
Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great one.